The prophet was known for ease and simplicity, and avoidance of exaggeration, seeking moderation. His instruction to his emissaries, whom he sent to teach people the religion, was, "Make things easy, and do not make things difficult. Give glad tidings, and do not repel. Be moderate and be near, that is, be near to the goal as much as you can. Indeed, this religion is firm, so proceed into it with gentleness. Do not make the worship of God hateful to yourselves. For the one who exhausts his mount in travel leaves it without having covered the land, nor preserved the mount." From that, a man new to Islam came to the Prophet and said to him that he could not bear all the prayers and that he would undertake some of them. The Prophet did not forbid him. The companions were surprised. After he left, the Prophet said to them, "When faith takes hold of his heart, he will pray them all." Among the characteristics of Islam is that it does not see the ideal good in the life of recluses, nor does it see it in lowly, base pleasures. Rather, it refines reality as much as it can and builds bridges from it to ascend to the ideal life step by step, without exhausting the nature and disposition. Were it not for this gentleness and leniency in nurturing and training the soul, the ideals would have remained ink on paper, and the human would have remained in his low state in the folds of the soft sand. Dr. Bakri Sheikh Amin, in his book The Literature of Prophetic Speech, and it is mentioned in the Hadith, the Messenger of God never took revenge for himself. He was never given a choice between two matters, but he chose the easier of them as long as it was not a sin. A Bedouin came to the messenger while he was among his companions. He gave him and asked him, "Have I been good?" The Bedouin said, "No, you have not been good, nor have you beautified." They rose against him. He said to them, "Leave him." He entered his home, then sent to the Bedouin and gave him something more, and asked him. He answered him, "May God reward you from the family of the tribe with good." The messenger said, "When it is morning, and I am present with my companions, say to them what you said, for they have something in their souls." He said it in their presence, and what they held against him went away. Then the messenger said, "My example and the example of this Bedouin is that of a man who has a she-camel that has strayed. The people set out to drive it, but it only increased in flight. He said, 'Leave me and my she-camel.' He took for it from the plants of the earth, gently, gently, until it knelt, and he loaded his riding beasts on it." In the noble Hadith, 7 whom God will shade in his shade, on the day when there is no shade but his, a just ruler, a youth who grew up in the worship of his Lord, a man whose heart is attached to the mosques, 2 men who love each other for the sake of God, meeting for that and parting for that, a man whom a woman of beauty and status seduces, but he says, "I fear God," a man who gives charity and conceals it so that his left hand does not know what his right hand spins, and a man who remembers God in private and his eyes overflow. And from his eloquent words, the hand of God is with the congregation. The wolf only eats the stray sheep. Paradise is surrounded by hardships, and the fire is surrounded by desires. None of you believes until his desire is in accordance with what I have brought. And he said to the one who interceded concerning the matter of the Makhzumiyah woman who stole, "The people before you were destroyed, because when the noble among them stole, they would leave him, and when the weak among them stole, they would carry out the punishment on him." And he said to his companions one day, "Do you know who the bankrupt is on the day of resurrection?" They said, "The bankrupt among us is the one who has no dirham nor property." The messenger said, "The bankrupt is the one who comes on the day of resurrection with prayers, fasting, and zakah, but he had insulted this, slandered that, consumed the wealth of this, shed the blood of that, and struck that. So his good deeds are given to these, and when his good deeds are exhausted, their sins are cast upon him, then he is cast into the fire." In a narration of Muslim, the Prophet said, "The strong believer is better and more beloved to God than the weak believer, and in both is good." In the Prophet's emphasis on strength, there is a confirmation that Islam is strength and vigor, not weakness, flabbiness, and surrender. The messenger said to the one who asked him, "Advise me," answering him in one word, "Do not get angry." The questioner repeated his question 3 times, and the messenger did not increase beyond this word, "Do not get angry." And he said, "Reflect on the creation, but do not reflect on the Creator, for God cannot be encompassed by thought."
It was known about the Prophet that if he cited lines of poetry, he would break their meters intentionally. So he would pronounce the famous line like this: The days will show you what you are ignorant of, and news will come to you from whom you did not supply. Instead of reciting it on its original meter, and news will come to you from whom you did not supply. Al-Rafi says about this that nothing prevented the Prophet from establishing the meter of poetry except what God had revealed in the Quran of preventing him from composing it. We have not taught him poetry, nor is it befitting for him. It is not but a message and a clear Quran. So if he had recited poetry on its meter, intense emotion would have overtaken him, and his strong nature would have overpowered him, and he would have inevitably delved into it and expanded in it, and thus become a poet. If he had forced himself to poetry, he would have taken the ways of the Arabs and competed in them. Then he would have indulged in what zeal is kindled for, and this matter leads one to another. Then in its totality it would only lead to turning away from the call. Then after that, his companions and successors would have taken to that, proceeding on what was the matter in the pre-Islamic period, and that would have spread among the people and taken hold of them, and if it had taken hold of them, Islam would not have stood. But the Prophet's avoidance of composing poetry did not mean a lack of appreciation for it. He was known for his good taste in poetry and his delight in good verse. He pardoned Ka'b ibn Zuhair when he recited his famous ode Banat Su'ad and threw his cloak over him in appreciation. He would delight in Al-Khansa and her poetry about her brother Sakhar and ask for more, saying, "Go on, O Khansa." And he would call his poet Hassan ibn Thabit to respond to the delegation's poems with poetry. The messenger was prevented from composing poetry, not from appreciating it, to protect his noble person from imitation. God wanted him to be unique and distinct in his era, his tongue not running with affectation, nor his speech being contrived, and his heart purified to be a vessel for his divine words. The discerning literary critic, if he listens to the prophetic speech and to the Quran, will perceive with his taste that each of them issues from a different spring, and that it is impossible for the speaker of the Hadith to be the author of the Quran. In that, the knower of God, Abdul Aziz al-Dabagh, says in Al-Ibriz, "Everyone who listens to the Quran and lets its meanings flow upon his heart knows by necessary knowledge that it is the speech of the Lord. The greatness in it and the mastery over it are nothing but the greatness of lordship and the mastery of divinity. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, recite in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging substance. Recite, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not, and that tremendous rhythm in the expressions, and it was said, O earth, swallow your water, and O sky, withhold your rain. And the water subsided, and the matter was accomplished, and it, the ship, came to rest on the mountain of Judy. And it was said, away with the wrongdoing people. Who is it that issues these cosmic commands? And the spheres obey him, and the heavens and the earth split by his command. The mastery of these words cannot be from the mastery of their speaker. How far is the difference between this Quranic style and the style of the prophetic speech? There is more than one aspect of the aspects of miraculousness by which the Quran is distinguished from the Hadith, and I have devoted a lengthy chapter to that in my book, My Dialogues with My Atheist Friend, in the chapter, Why the Quran is Not from Muhammad's Composition. For whoever wants more details on the topic, let him return to the book. It seems that the impact of the Quran on hearts and ears was in his time a matter different from what it is in our time. The Bedouin, when he listened to the Quran and the Quranic phrases struck his heart, would make his she-camel kneel and testify that there is no deity but God and submit with all his faculties. The miracle of the Quranic language was, for this pure Arabic instinct, a clear matter without dispute. But today we have lost the Arabic instinct and the primary linguistic nature, and ears and hearts have been blocked, and the matter has become in need of demonstration and proof. This is what the passage of time has done, 1400 years in our distance from our linguistic springs, and our ignorance of its origins. After the conquest of Mecca, Abu Bakr went out for Hajj with 300 Muslims. Ali bin Abi Talib stood among the people while they were performing the rites of Hajj, and the mushrikeen had mixed with the Muslims. He recited to them Surat al-Tawbah. In this surah, the first clear verse was revealed prohibiting the mushrikeen from entering the sacred masjid. O you who have believed, indeed the mushrikeen are unclean, so let them not approach al-Masjid al-Haram after this their final year. And if you fear poverty, then God will enrich you from his bounty, if he wills. Indeed God is knowing and wise.
God fulfilled his promise,
and enriched them from his bounty, and made the land of the Hijaz the richest country in the world. Ali ibn Abi Talib stood that day, calling out to the people, "O people, indeed no disbeliever will enter paradise, no polytheist will perform Hajj after this year, and no one will circumambulate the house naked. Whoever has a treaty with the messenger of God, peace be upon him, it is until its term." And from that day, no polytheist performed Hajj, and no one circumambulated the house naked. The polytheist used to circumambulate before naked. From that day, the first foundation of the Islamic State was laid. It was in God's knowledge that this nascent state would face the mighty estates of polytheism and idolatry, the Persians and the Romans, and dangers would besiege it from every side, and fighting would be imposed upon it by necessity. So he commanded the Muslims to fight jihad, and fight the polytheists all together as they fight you all together, and know that God is with the righteous. On the 5th of Dhu al-Qida of the 10th year of the Hijrah, the Prophet set out for Mecca for the farewell pilgrimage at the head of 100,000. The deserts, valleys, and mountains echoed with their chant, "At your service, O God! At your service! At your service! You have no partner! At your service!" The Prophet addressed the people at Arafat, and behind him Rabi'a ibn Umayyah repeated what he said to the people with his powerful voice. "O people, listen to my words, for I do not know. Perhaps I will not meet you after this year of mine in this standing ever. O people, your blood and your wealth are sacred to you until you meet your Lord. He will ask you about your deeds. I have conveyed. Every usury is abolished, and the usury of Al-Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib is abolished entirely. Every blood in the pre-Islamic period is abolished. Time has turned as it was on the day God created the heavens and the earth. The number of months with God is 12 months, of which 4 are sacred. So do, O people, as I say. I have left among you that which if you hold fast to it, you will never go astray. The Book of God and the Sunnah of His Messenger. Every Muslim is a brother to the Muslim. It is not lawful for a man to take from his brother except what he gives him willingly. So do not wrong yourselves. O God, have I conveyed? The echoes responded from every voice, Yes. He said, O God, bear witness. And he recited the verse, This day I have perfected for you your religion, and completed my favor upon you, and have approved for you Islam as religion. But whoever is forced by severe hunger with no inclination to sin, then indeed God is forgiving and merciful. Abu Bakr wept, feeling that the Prophet's term had drawn near. The Prophet returned to Medina and began preparing an army to Al-Sham, placing Usama ibn Zayd at its head. Illness confined him, and the fever increased upon him. He requested from his wives to pour water on him from 7 waterskins from 7 wells. Then he went out to the masjid with his head bandaged and sat on the pulpit. He asked forgiveness for those slain at Uhud and frequently prayed for them. Then he said, O people, dispatch the army of Osama. By my life, he is worthy of command as his father was of it before. There had been whispering among the Muslims that Osama was too young to be chosen for such an army. He was silent for a while, catching his breath. Then he said, A servant from among the servants of God, God gave him the choice between this world and the hereafter, and what is with him, and he chose what is with God. And he fell silent. The people were as if birds were upon their heads, not understanding. But Abu Bakr wept, realizing the meaning of the phrase that the Prophet meant himself by that, and that God had given him the choice between remaining in this world and the hereafter, and the hospitality with him, and he chose the station of nearness with his Lord. The Prophet looked at Abu Bakr with tenderness and ordered that all the doors leading to the masjid be closed except the door of Abu Bakr. And he said,
I do not know of anyone who is better in companionship than him. If I were to take a close friend among the servants, I would have taken Abu Bakr as a close friend. But it is the friendship of faith and brotherhood until God gathers us with him." Then he turned to his companions and said, "O assembly of emigrants, treat the Ansar well, for they were my storehouse and the place of my secret. So be good to those who are good to them, and overlook those who wrong them." The fever intensified upon him, and he kept to his house. He ordered Abu Bakr to lead the people in prayer, fearing for him from the fever. Then he regained consciousness while suffering the most severe distress. He dipped his hand from a vessel with cold water next to him and wiped it over his face. Fatima was next to him, whispering, "Oh, the distress of my father." He said to her tenderly, "There is no distress upon your father after today." In his house were 7 dinars before his illness. He ordered Aisha to spend them in charity, and he said, "What would Muhammad think of his Lord if he met him while having these dinars? We, the company of prophets, do not bequeath. What we leave is charity." In the morning, he mustered his strength and rose to the masjid with his head bandaged, leaning on the arms of Ali ibn Abi Talib and Al-Fadl ibn Abbas. He entered the masjid while the people were praying. He sat to the right of Abu Bakr and prayed sitting. When he finished his prayer, he turned to the people to say, "O people, if I have flogged any of you, here is my back, let him retaliate. If I have taken a dirham from any of you, here is my wealth, let him take his right." He caught his breath, then returned to say, "O people, the fire has been stoked, and the fitins have come like pieces of the dark night." He was describing what awaited Islam after him. Then severe weakness overtook him again. Then we see him in his final moments, his head in the lap of Aisha, murmuring, "O God, help me, for I am upon the throes of death." Aisha narrates the final chapter of his life. "I found the Rasul Allah, peace be upon him, heavy in my lap. I went to look at his face, and his sight had become fixed, and he was saying, 'Rather the highest companion from paradise.' He had chosen the companionship with God over immortal life in this world and the hereafter. Muhammad died.
Abu Bakr came quickly to Aisha's house and asked permission to enter. Aisha said to him, "No one has any need today by permission." He entered to find the Prophet covered with a striped cloak. He approached him until he uncovered his face, then kissed his face, saying, "How sweet you are, alive and dead." Then he returned the head to the pillow and covered his face with the cloak. He went out to the people who were denying his death outside, with Umar at their head, threatening everyone who said the Prophet had died. Abu Bakr stood among them and said with a firm voice, "O people, whoever worshipped Muhammad, Muhammad has died, and whoever worshipped God, God is alive and does not die." Then he recited his saying, exalted, "And Muhammad is not but a messenger. Messengers have passed on before him. So if he was to die or be killed, would you turn back on your heels? And he who turns back on his heels will never harm God at all, and God will reward the grateful." When Umar heard Abu Bakr reciting the verse, he fell to the ground, his legs unable to carry him, having become certain that the messenger of God had died. Abu Bakr stood after the pledge of allegiance had been taken for him to say those colossal words, "To proceed, O people, I have been put in charge over you, and I am not the best of you. So if I do well, help me, and if I do wrong, set me right. Truthfulness is a trust, and lying is treachery. The weak among you is strong in my sight, until I restore his right to him, God willing. The strong among you is weak in my sight, until I take the right from him, God willing.
No people abandon jihad in the way of God, but God strikes them with humiliation. And immorality does not become widespread among a people, but God envelops them with calamity. Obey me so long as I obey God and His messenger. But if I disobey God and His messenger, you owe me no obedience. Rise to your prayer, may God have mercy on you. And what a difference, after that, between this speech and that oppressive speech delivered by the Abbasid Caliph al-Mansur, less than 2 centuries later in the same position. O people, I am but the authority of God in His earth and the guardian over His wealth. I work in it by His will, and God has made me a lock upon it. If He wills, He opens me to give to you, and if He wills, He keeps me locked. A despotic ruler came to rule people with absolute rule, deriving his authority from the divine right, like the kings of the Dark Ages in Europe, who derived their absolute powers from the papal throne. A tyrant who imposed a new, harsh materialistic ignorance upon the people in the name of religion, while religion is innocent of it. That is another man. This one brings forth light from his lips, a man who drank from the spring of prophethood and came out of its great factory. That is the magical touch and what it does to men. That is the spiritual radiation and what it does, blowing life into the dead. It is what no great man of the world has the power to do. Rather, it is the prophet alone, supported by the forces of the unseen, surrounded by care, preserved by infallibility and empowerment. I bear witness that there is no deity but God, and that Muhammad is His servant and His messenger, and the seal of His prophets. It is enough for me as a hope in life that I follow His way and call to His call, and be resurrected under His banner, and be gathered upon His foot. And the blessings and peace of God be on our Master and our leader Muhammad until the end of time.
This translation, which I have undertaken with my humble abilities, is an obligation upon every Muslim to take from it and add to it. If one wishes to put his name on it, that is acceptable, and to publish it for the sake of God, and translate it into other languages, so that benefit may spread to all of God's creation. We seek nothing but the countenance of God. O God, make it purely for your noble countenance,